49 times higher. What? Hi guys, it's Eric from Hong Kong based in Germany. I've been investing since I was 17 years old for almost 20 years. I want to give you guys alternative perspective about investing in Asian stocks as well as in personal finance. Today I want to talk about the trading fees between a high street bank and an online broker. Last time, if you remember, I did a comparison between HSBC in Hong Kong, a high street bank, and an online broker called Trade Republic in Germany. If you haven't seen the video yet, check it out here or here. It's very interesting indeed. You will be shocked by the findings. So this time, I'm going to compare Commerzbank, a high street bank in Germany, and Trade Republic. I'm going to compare the fees of stock trading as well as dividend. So why? Because Commerzbank is a high street bank that I'm already using, and I was thinking maybe it's safer to use an existing bank using the online platform instead of a e-trader or an online broker, which I have no idea at all. However, the fact is that both Commerzbank and Trade Republic are regulated by BaFin, which is the financial regulator of Germany, as well as the central bank. So even though they're different types of banks, but they are under strict regulations. Moreover, Trade Republic's clients' money are actually held in trust in a bank called Solaris Bank, which is of course also regulated by the German government. So your money are not held by Trade Republic. That means that they cannot take your money at their free will to cover their pit holes if something happens with themselves financially. Money in savings accounts, check accounts or current accounts, in Germany they are all under some kind of government insurance. So with the insurance, each depositor in each bank are guaranteed 100,000 euros. If something happens to the bank, at least you will get 100,000 back from each bank. However, many people misunderstood and think that, okay, I'm safe now, so all my securities with Trade Republic or Commerzbank are safe because of this guarantee or this insurance. That's not true. This insurance only guarantees deposits, so deposits in savings and check accounts, etc., but not securities. Well, no worries though, because your securities, no matter stock or ETFs, they are held on your behalf. That means that they're under your name, and they are by law to be deposited in a custodian account. That means that they are not being in the possession of the bank itself, and the bank does not have control of your securities, so they cannot just sell them, pay back their own debts. For example, interestingly, Trade Republic clients' securities are actually held in HSBC's custodian bank. Let's dig into it and see what are the differences between Trade Republic and Commerzbank in terms of charges on trading and also on dividends of our stocks. So let's look at Commerzbank. They have many kind of so-called depots, different kind of investment accounts, I would say. The most entry-level one is something called Direkt depot or direct depot, which is supposedly online DIY only and should be the cheapest. The charges for dividend is 0.25% plus 4.9 euros, with a minimum charge of 9.9 euros. It is the same also for stock trading, 0.25% plus 4.9 euros per transaction, with a minimum of 9.9 euros. Custodian fees can be waived if you do at least one transaction per quarter, which is pretty reasonable, and I assume that most people can do that. As mentioned in the last video, Trade Republic does not charge anything for dividends and charge a maximum of €1 per transaction for stock trading. Also, they do not have custodian fees. As in the last video, I used myself as a proxy in order to find out the differences. So in 2020, I did 40 transactions. That means for Trade Republic it's pretty easy. It's €40 in total in terms of charges, and that's it. how much would I have paid in 2020 if I had used Commerzbank's direct deposit? Let's start with dividend. For dividend, as I mentioned, is 0.25% plus 4.9 euros, or the minimum charge is 9.9 euros. If you have below 2,000 euros and you time it by 0.25% plus 4.99 euros, you actually pay less than 9.9 euro, which is the minimum charge. For all my dividend transactions, I pay 9.9 euros per dividend. That includes interim dividend and final dividend. Each time I need to pay 9.9 euros, no matter how much I get from the dividend. As you see, I paid basically 9.9 euros for every dividend that I got. I've paid 109 euros for dividend in 2020 alone. Given that the total amount of dividend I got was around 1,000 euros, I actually paid 10.9% of fees. That's insane, right? 10% of my dividend would have been to Commerzbank. For stock trading, the picture is a bit different. Even though that the charges is still 0.25% of the transaction volume plus 4.9 euros with a minimum charge of 9.9 euros. Well, the threshold is still 2,000 euros in order to go beyond the 9.9 euro minimum charge per transaction. In this case, with direct deposit, I would have paid ranging from 9.9 euro, which is the minimum per transaction, up to 28.8 euro for one of the biggest transactions. In total, I would have paid 474 euros in 2020 for all my transactions based on these fees. And of course, it doesn't mean anything, 474 euros. If I had done 474 million euros of transaction, that would be peanuts, right? So how much was my transaction? In 2020, my total transaction, including buy and selling, excluding dividends, was 97,275 euro. The charge on stock trading of 474 euros is roughly equal to 0.49% of the total transaction volume, which is slightly better than the 0.58% by HSBC Hong Kong. As there were 40 transactions in total, it means that roughly equal to 12 euros per transaction. And for custodian fees, luckily, I would assume that you can do at least one transaction per quarter, basically not inactive. So it's for free. So the total amount of fees that I would have paid direct deposit in 2020, including dividend, including custodian fees, including stock trading fees, would have been 582 euros versus Trade Republic's 40 euros. Well, that means that I could have spared 542 euros in 2020 if I would have used Trade Republic rather than direct deposit in Commerzbank. Okay, maybe it's not that fair because I had a look. There's also something called the Start Deposit in Commerzbank. It's also another entry-level investment account. They seem to have a better deal because there's no minimum charge of 9.9 euros. Instead, they charge you 1% of the transaction volume plus 4.9 euros. That sounds very interesting, right? Let's check it out and see if that would be a better deal for us if I actually did my stock trading and dividend through this so-called Start Deposit in Commerzbank. For dividend, it was nice because I would have paid only 63.9 euros instead of 109 euros of fees for my dividend because it's only based on my percentage plus 4.9 euros instead of the minimum charge of 9.9 euros. So this sounds like a good start. How about stock trading? So stock trading 1% plus 4.99 euros means that I will have paid 1,283 euros for my transactions in 2020. It's like 30.82 euros per trade. versus €1 per trade in Trade Republic. That's like 30 times more than Trade Republic. Of course, this could be different if you have different average size of transaction. Mine was around €2,400 per transaction. If you are trading in smaller size, for example, I think most people in retail trading would be around €500. I think that's a good rule of thumb because the average account size in Robinhood, for example, is €3,500. So I can imagine €500 per trade is a reasonable assumption. So what if our average per trade was €500? If I went for Commerzbank's direct deposit or start deposit, it doesn't really matter, because if I trade €500 on average times 0.25% plus €4.9, it would be lower than €9.9 anyways. So that means I need to pay €9.9. How about with start deposit? If the transaction volume was €500 and is 1% transaction fee plus €4.9, that's basically equal to €9.9 as well. So €9.9 per trade means around 2% of the €500 trade. That's insane, right? So given my transaction volume in 2020, it was €97,275. That means that I would have spent €1,945.5 just on transaction costs. And look at Trade Republic, how much was it? €40 for 40 transactions. That's it. That's like 49 times higher. What the? So in conclusion, no matter in Hong Kong or in Germany, it's much cheaper to trade with online broker rather than with a traditional high street bank. No matter Commerzbank, HSBC, all of them much more expensive. Especially that if you're a dividend investor, it doesn't make sense at all, unless you have millions of euros of dividends. Especially if you have only several hundred euros of dividends each time, and you can pay up to 10% or 11% like my case. If I would have used Commerzbank, that would be crazy, right? Compared with zero charges with online brokers. And they are equally safe per se. So what do you think about it? Are you still going to use a traditional high street bank for your stock trading, or you shift to online brokers? Let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, remember to like, share and subscribe. That would be great motivation for me to make more in-depth and better videos.